How to reinvent yourself in the second half of your career. Let me get one thing straight. The second half of your career is not about winding down, it's about repositioning and rethinking. If you think this phrase is about hanging on, staying relevant, or quietly surviving until retirement, you've already lost that control, the control of your career. Nobody announces that loss. It just shows up as fewer calls, slower responses, and opportunities that somehow go to people younger, cheaper, or louder. Reinvention is not superficial, it is strategic. It starts with a mindset shift that most professionals avoid because it feels uncomfortable. I'm Martin Buckland, a global executive career management practitioner. Over the last 30 plus years, I have helped thousands of clients across the world manage the second half of their career. Welcome to episode number 258 of Tuesdays at 2. So, tip number one, stop defining yourself by your past titles. Your biggest asset is also your biggest liability, your history, your experience, those job titles, the tenure, the loyalty, if you have any, decades of experience, all valuable, all dangerous if you cling to them. The market does not reward who you were. It rewards what you can solve now, today, the value you bring employers in the second half of your career. Reinvention begins when you stop introducing yourself as former this or long time that and start positioning yourself as someone who delivers specific outcomes today. That's where you need to refresh your mind. Experience only matters if it's translated and articulated with authority and confidence. Have confidence where you are in your life. If your resume, your CV, or your LinkedIn profile reads like an obituary, you're not a value proposition. You are invisible. Yes, I'm being harsh, but it's accurate. Number two, decide who you are, becoming not what you're leaving. Most people get stuck because they focus on what they want to escape. I don't want this role anymore. I don't want this industry. I don't want this stress. That is not a strategy. That is showing disenchantment and career fatigue. Reinvention requires direction, a kickstart, a boost, not frustration. You must decide, what problems do I want to solve now? At what level? In what environments? With what degree of influence? Reinvention is not random exploration. It is intentional, clear exploration and repositioning. If you cannot clearly articulate who you are becoming, the market will decide that for you. In today's economic uncertainty, it will not, I repeat, not be kind. Number three, audit your skills like an investor, not an employee. This is where emotions usually get in the way. You most brutally assess your skills as if they were investing in yourself, not defending your past, not justifying your comfort zone. So ask yourself, which of my skills are timeless? Which are becoming obsolete? Which need upgrading? Which am I overvaluing because they once mattered? Leadership, judgment, pattern recognition, decision making under pressure, stakeholder influence. These age well. legacy systems knowledge, outdated processes, internal politics. These do not. Reinvention is not about learning to everything new. It's about upgrading your relevance. Let me give you an example. Just yesterday on a resume, I saw somebody who, in several parts of their resume, emphasized that they were an expert in Lotus Notes. I'm not an expert in Lotus Notes, but I know that has disappeared off the face of the earth. I'm going to say at least a decade ago. So what am I going to think if I was in a hiring authority? What am I going to think about that person? Instantly, they are outdated. They are not forward thinking. Number 4, build a second act narrative that makes sense to others. You may not know why you want to pivot, and the market doesn't care. If your story sounds confused, defensive, or apologetic, decision makers will pass without asking questions. You need a clean, confident narrative that will spark intrigue. This is the experience I bring. This is the value I deliver now. This is why it matters to your world, your company. Reinvention fails when people sound like they are explaining a gap or justifying a change. It succeeds when the transition feels logical, deliberate, and valuable. Visibility, number 5, visibility is no longer optional. This part makes many seasoned professionals feel uncomfortable. You were trained to let your work speak for itself. The problem? The room is louder now. Your work is not speaking unless you give it a microphone, loud. Reinvention requires intentional visibility. So what does that mean? Being clear about your expertise, sharing informed opinions, engaging in your industry, being seen as relevant, not resting on that reputation. This is not about self-promotion, it's signaling clarity. If people cannot quickly understand your value, they will move on. I can tell you professionally, and they always do. Number 6, stop competing with your younger self. This one matters. You are not supposed to compete on speed, the number of hours, or stamina anymore. That is a losing game. Your advantage is your judgment, your perspective, your risk awareness, your execution maturity, your boundless experience. Reinvention is about elevation, not regression. If you try to play the same game you played when you were 30, you will feel irrelevant. If you define the game around value, influence, outcomes, you become dangerous in the best possible way. Number 7, reinvention requires that ownership, not permission. No employer is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, now would be a good time to reinvent yourself. So let me repeat that. No employer is going to tap you on the shoulder and say, now would be the good time to reinvent yourself. That moment does not come. Reinvention happens when you stop waiting for validation and you start acting like the CEO of your career, managing your career. You update your positioning, you modernize your story, you invest in yourself, you choose relevance. The second half of your career can be the most powerful chapter and very fulfilling, but only if you treat it as a strategic rebuild, not a sentimental continuation. So, as I wrap this presentation up, reinvention is not about age, it's about intent. The professionals who thrive later in their careers are not luckier, they are clearer, braver, more deliberate. They stop drifting, they start designing. That is the difference. They manage their career. In short, they really take control from their employer and manage their career. I'm Martin Buckland, your global executive career management practitioner. Remember, your career is your business, so you need to manage it like a business. Too few do. For more information on all facets of career management, please visit my YouTube channel, Martin Buckland, and press the subscribe button and the bell button to be notified of upcoming videos. Thanks for watching today. What have you learned from this video? Perhaps you would like to put them in the comments.